People that listen to our podcast, you know what they want to hear? They want to hear 4 fucking grizzly bears getting down on some bullshit. That's what they want to hear.
Welcome to the Drivers Project podcast, featuring hosts Dominic Selzy, JJ Hickle, Sam Hafertepe Jr., and myself, Daryl Turford. The Drivers Project podcast is brought to you by Kaiser Aluminum Wheels. Be wiser, by Kaiser. We're back with another Drivers Project podcast presented by Kaiser Wheels, and a couple weeks ago we did a high limit season in review and the state of the series, and now that the World of Outlaws have finished up, it's time to give them their turn to talk about it, and to do that, we have Connor Wade. He's the pit announcer, badass little pit announcer there. And then we have Jaxon Steele, who's the producer of the DirtVision of the DirtVision broadcast. And some guy, Michael Buddy Kofoid, we have finished second with the World of Outlaws this year. Welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Yep. Welcome to Jackson, too. His first appearance on the pod. Big for him.
Yeah, big time.
He made a big debut last week with Danny Dietrich and proceeded to hate his life with the audio.
So much fun.
So normally we start the show off by doing some updates. I think Sam's the only guy that actually... Nope, Buddy ran midgets. Buddy, can you tell us about how you did in the Hangtown 100?
Actually not as rusty as I thought I would be. Qualified decent. Went forward in the heat race, and I think a couple guys missed it with USAC's format with, if you qualify in the top 6 and you make it a heat race, it lines up the first 3 rows, but I think 2 people missed it, so I actually got to slot into that top 6 and started second. Felt okay. I don't want to say I was uncomfortable. I just didn't feel like we were probably good enough on the cushion. And I feel like it's weird. Like, I feel like I couldn't build enough mile an hour to run around as high as some of those guys were. Like, I felt like I just lacked momentum. And then felt pretty good at the end, actually, but we actually broke a motor, which is rare for... I feel like any Toyota Midget engine, and just in general, at my tenure with KKM, I've seen 2 or 3 really in the last 6 years that I've been there. But no, not bad. I think I started off the swing better than last year.
So
speed-wise.
An observation Sam and I had from the Chili Bowl, I didn't really plan to ask you this, but Sam and I had the observation that obviously the Coons cars are incredible, but on these curbed up racetracks like the Chili Bowl, they don't seem to be quite as good. Is that an issue Keith's trying to work through with the curb, or is it just coincidence?
I don't know. So I think some of it is just maybe dependent on the driver. And I feel like that's like where I always thrived on the curb, whether it's driver or, they've been changing crew chiefs around. Like Keith's kind of stepped away, and the crew chief that I always had, he's been gone a couple years now. And, Bo Bender's been my crew chief now the last 2 years. But I think, maybe some of it is, I would guess, would be the difference of changing from a spike bullet to a link bullet. To me personally, I feel like they are different. I think they've come a long ways. But to me, like, that feel that I had in 21 and 22 is different than the feel that I have now. So I think that probably plays into some of it. Like, I still kind of look for that feel that I know I'm probably not really going to get just based on how the links are built now, which is obviously fine because that's what we got and that's what we have to make good. But I don't know. I think some of it too is like Chili Bowl's, like, for me, I've always said, like, the Chili Bowl is like the most uncomfortable I ever feel in a midget, just because we run like a 718 gear. We have no weight. well, at the time, we had until I think last year we had bigger tires, better tires. So I feel like they were always just snappy and wanted to like pirouette all the time anyway. So I think some of that plays into effect. But I think now, just with having the USAC tire being harder and really not as good, I think it probably plays a part. But I'd just say it's probably just a combination of things.
Okay. So Sam, you raced at Creek County this week. You finished up your ASCS season. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, first night, started, I don't know where we started, fourth maybe. Yeah, we started fourth and finally got going there and passing, I don't know, we were in third, probably getting ready to pass for second, and a lap car decided to pull off the racetrack from the middle lane all the way across the bottom and collected us, and that was kind of the end of our run there. And then Saturday night, fell back to fifth from third, and then actually got it rolling really good, took the lead, and kind of looked like we were just going to have it handled, and then it laid rubber on the bottom, and we didn't see it coming, and didn't adjust fast enough to get back down there after we got past for the lead, and made it like a last-ditch effort there at the end. He got in traffic and tried the top again, and they'd thrown so much crumbs across from the rubber that there's just nothing there. We lost one more spot and run third, and ultimately wrapped up our 6th championship, so we can't be mad about that.
I blame Daryl. Should have got out there more and told him, Daryl.
Yeah, for just a little backstory there. There's even more than you realize, Jaxon. Is Sam started to be suspicious that the bottom was coming in, and I'd actually gone to the front stretch. This is what Jackson's referring to, and I was signaling Sam to get to the bottom. But the way Creek County is, like the front stretch fence, maybe you can describe it, Sam. Like it's hard to see your crew guy.
Yeah,
So,
the mesh is so tight. Like like if you're going down the front straightaway, you really can't see the fans, and naturally.
But then
you usually won't miss a guy like Daryl, but I did, clearly.
And then on top of that, Sam's like best friend in racing, Sean McClellan, actually broke and was in the infield. And Sam was asking him, do I need to be high or low? But the officials were standing right with Sean, so Sean didn't want to give him the answer either. So Sam was suspicious that he needed to move down, but we just weren't able to get it across to him that, yes, he definitely needed to move down. And it sucks because Sam drove a great race. Like, I don't think it came across on TV, but the curb on both ends was over a foot tall, and that is not Sam's forte. I think he'll admit that all day long.
No, hey, buddy, I actually felt like a little kid again driving. I was like, man, where the fuck did this come from? But I still ruined it anyway at the end of the day.
Which brings me to a completely unscripted question. Buddy, do you feel like a piece of shit for robbing Sam of a World of Outlaw win this year?
No, not at all. Because I needed that one, because that was my first one of the year.
He hadn't won since 2011, buddy. It was right there for him.
I don't feel bad. I think
you shouldn't feel bad.
Maybe another time.
So,
but that's the glory of the Outlaws.
Yes, it is.
There's always going to be someone there. There's always someone there.
Don't worry, Sam. We're going back to Kennedale, so you'll have a shot again.
It's usually not a good track for me. I don't know how I decided to run good one night there, but you'll have that.
So, Connor Wade, where are you right now?
I am in Concord, North Carolina, which is where I live now. So I'm just enjoying the off season, man.
Yeah, you guys had a pretty hectic year. Are you happy to be done, or do you wish you were still going?
I am. I mean, I love the season. I love the grind of it. And I love the tour. And I wasn't ready for a break necessarily from the racing. I was more so ready for a break from the late night drives, the fast food, the hotels, the gas station meals. I was just ready for a little bit of a break from that. So, as much as I love being at the track every single weekend, I was ready for a little bit of a break, and I'll admit that. But I take 2 months or so to refresh and hang out with friends, hang out with family for the holidays, and I'll be ready to rip in February. But yeah, I think more so than any other year, I was ready for this one to be over and just have a bit of a break.
Jaxon, you're about to give up all your freedom, aren't you?
For Saturday. Yep.
Yeah. What do you got going on
The
there?
last hoopla is a free man.
Way too much. We are last minute thrashing, trying to get everything done. Had to pick up my suit today, and they had to fix my pants twice. So we're just pushing through to get through it all here.
So we're gonna get into racing now. Buddy, I guess we'll ask you first since you were actually in the race. I don't think we can possibly go past this weekend without talking about the Dason Pursley Kyle Larson crash. What were your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I normally don't like to give my opinion on stuff like that, but like I respect Dason and like good friends with him, especially when I race with KKM, and obviously respect Kyle and everything he's about and does, and of course. And I think I assume, would have that same respect for each other. But I feel like Dason, obviously, whatever they did under the open red or especially on those last like 20 laps, like I feel like his car like came to life because I got by him at one point, and then USAC has, this rule where you can't fan out, and the Outlaws you can. And I fanned out and then got called for a jump, so I had to give the spot back to Dason, and then he did it. And then I got the spot back again. And then I feel like we kind of ran for a little while, and then I think he just got rolling. So obviously his car was better than mine and Kyle's, I feel like. For him to pass me in clean air and pretty much get to Kyle and more or less mostly pass Kyle in clean air with no traffic, I just feel like probably wasn't necessary. Obviously, I know it wasn't his intention to do that. And there's people talking about the berm or the grease, but I feel like, and I'm not picking sides, but that grease was there since we rolled in at 11 o'clock. And it was there after we hot lapped, after we qualified, so it didn't go anywhere. So I feel like you have to have that in the back of your head. And I know heat of the moment you're racing and going for the lead, and especially with Kyle, you almost don't really get a shot at all, and he had a shot, so you have to take it. But I just feel like at the end of the day, I guess you can kind of point it to a racing deal, but I think there's some things that could have been avoided, like, just how it happened, or I feel like the easier corner to slide someone is 3 and 4. And, you don't have to worry about the grease. And I mean, there was a rut, but I think if you got across it fast enough, it wouldn't hurt you. And I feel like there was less moisture under the cushion off of 4, so they wouldn't be able to turn off you as easy or turn under you as easy, I feel like. But you got to take what you can get, and he took it, and it just didn't work. But I don't know. I think Dason was good. I think he was running hard. I mean, he almost got me before he got Kyle, but that's kind of midget racing. And like I said, his car was good, but I think it was probably good enough where you didn't have to run that aggressive. But then again, it's midget racing.
Yeah, like
You can't be mad.
That's what in my opinion, like what Buddy said, it's just midget racing. Like that's what it comes down to. Like I watched that deal and
like no ill intentions, obviously, but sometimes just shit
but
happens.
like I watched that deal and yeah, like I get why, like I get the fuss that people are making about it. I do. Like I agree with everything you said, but like at the same time, you compare that to like 90% of the slide jobs and the shit that happens in midget racing in 2025. And like in my opinion, that was nothing compared to like how midgets race a lot.
He was at his bumper at the flag stand.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't get any closer.
That was his chance, and I think he was building such a run, running way up above it in 3 and 4. I don't even think he could have slid across fast enough.
Like I said, if he was to his bumper on the backstretch, completely different story, I bet right now.
Now, Sam, you and I were watching the race, and as he came out of 4, you and I both said something along the lines of he's got to pull the trigger here. Thinking back to what Buddy's saying about 3 and 4, my memory is that Kyle was sliding himself. Do you think him sliding himself was hurting his opportunity, was helping him in not getting slid in 3 and 4? And do you think it was time for Dason to pull the trigger? Do you think he was going to get a better chance than that?
Well, going into that corner, Larson did enter a little lower than he had been entering too. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, he should have bombed him in 3 and 4. That's where he passed Buddy at and did okay doing that. But man, how often are you going to have an opportunity on Larson, for one? And for two, if he didn't get through 1 and 2 as good as he had been, is the opportunity going to, come again? Because I guarantee you Larson dropped down on his entry into one that time to block a slide, because obviously he had to hear him, because he was probably as close as anybody been to him all race long. So, I mean, Buddy said it didn't work. It actually did work. He actually passed him. I mean, maybe not, maybe not what he wanted, but
he got in front of him.
And like, I hate that it happened like that, because you could see, like, he hit that grease, and I mean, he didn't even have control of his car until after he got done running through him. So, he couldn't even get his bearings back about him for almost till Larson was off the racetrack completely. So, I don't know. Obviously, I don't think it was intentional by any means. And I mean, Larson had a pretty good interview after, I thought, and he took it a lot better than I thought he would. And I guess, he's not that mad.
At the time, he seemed pretty mad until the interview.
Yeah, he was,
Yeah.
but he took it about as good as anybody could, I think.
Yeah. But I do think what Buddy said there, I feel like there's a lot of truth to that, about there being grease there for the all 100 laps or 90 laps or whatever before that happened. I do think that happens a lot. And when people see these slide jobs go bad, people kind of give the guy an out. And I do think that's a thing where it's like, you do have to understand what the racetrack is giving you when you do it. I just also feel like Sam does. You don't know that you're going to get another shot at Larson. So I can see both sides of it. I think it's the ultimate racing deal where one guy gets shit on and the other guy comes out like roses.
And it's a little bit of a product of racing at Placerville. I mean, it's narrow, it's tight. The racetrack was hooked up because it had rained for so many days. I mean, sorry.
I think there's just so many variables.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't blame it on one person or another as far as ill intentions. It just happened, and
it's a 20 grand to win midget race too. So
yeah,
I mean,
and he just had a chili bowl where he passed Larson and had it taken back, and knows he couldn't get it back then. So there's no guarantee you're getting them back just because you're faster. But we're going to move on to the World of Outlaws season. The first question I'm going to bring up to you guys, Buddy isn't allowed to answer, but he gets to answer the follow-up question to it. And that is Connor Wade. David Gravel won his second World of Outlaw championship this year. We've pointed out in the past how statistically that usually leads to a dynasty or several years of winning the championship in a row. Is this the start of a dynasty for David Gravel?
It seems like it is. Like they are ridiculous in qualifying. And I think the way the Outlaw format is, like, the stars just align perfectly for them. Like on the front row of a heat race every night, you get into the dash, and let's say half the nights you're going to draw the front 2 rows of the dash, half the nights you're going to draw the last 2 rows, and that's going to fluctuate a little bit. But in a perfect world, and on those nights you draw the front 2 rows of the dash, you win. Those nights you draw the last 2, you run 3rd or 4th, and that wins you a championship. And David's been so good at doing that the last 2 years, but especially this year. So, like, in my opinion, and hopefully Buddy dives a little bit deeper into this later, but I feel like the second half, especially the last 4th of the season, come feature time, I thought the 83 raced better than the 2 every night. Come feature time. But when David runs 3rd or 4th every night because he starts on the front row of a heat race and can qualify so good, from a season long standpoint, that's going to be really, really tough to take down in terms of championships. So, it's so hard the way sprint car racing is to sit here and predict, oh, he's going to win this many championships in a row. But man, like the the way they are, the way they qualify, and the way they're, like David said on the show, the way they never have a night where they unload and are just bad. They're never behind the 8 ball. And that's definitely the recipe for a dynasty if there ever was one.
Jaxon, this has kind of been the same story 2 years in a row. Like, this was the story the year before. David got off to a big lead. Macedo and Buddy ran him down towards the end of the year. This year again, Macedo and Buddy seemed to make more so Buddy actually. Late in the year, as Macedo had some DNFs, they made a charge. What do you think we're seeing these late season charges?
Well, definitely David crashing at Charlotte there at the end made it a little closer than it really was, I feel like. But I think just because of California being at the end of the year, typically those aren't David's strong suits. You would say, even though he won Tulare this year, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the 83 the last 2 years post Knoxville have been just unbelievable, unloading quick. The only thing is that, like Connor said, the only real big difference is the 2 cars just in a different stratosphere as far as qualifying. Like, it is ridiculous how, no matter where they go out, they're going top 5 on the board most times, which
I think David does points race at the end of the year too. I saw it a little bit more.
I agree with that too.
I saw it more in 24 than I did in 25, but late in the year, he definitely, like, if he's running third, he's probably not pushing the issue too much to try to get to second or try to win the race.
Sam, I don't know. Bloomington seemed like he did.
Yeah. Again, there were some exceptions in 25. I feel like he was definitely more aggressive. He raced harder at the end of 25 than he did at the end of 24.
Sam, what are your thoughts on the possibility of a dynasty?
I think they're good. I mean, I always think with things like this, it's, can you keep your personnel? Is your engine builder still going to be strong? Is he, these are the things that really kill it, is if the engine builder gets a bad batch of pistons from this manufacturer or a bad something of this nature from this manufacturer, something they can't control, so things like that can happen. There's so many variables, man. We could go back to a time where Donny was in this dynasty mode, right? And obviously they didn't have a lot of problems. When Sweet was doing his deal, he didn't have a lot of problems. And you're seeing the same thing out of gravel. And I think the biggest thing they have going for them is how good the starts to their seasons have been. They leave Florida and it's like automatic, like, okay, well, this is over. Like, that's everybody's viewpoint from the outside looking in. And like, even Buddy, like, took them a while to get rolling. And then once they did, I mean, I wouldn't even say the last quarter of the year. Like, David went on his run early where he had a shit ton of wins right off the bat. But, right after that point, I felt like Buddy was matched up with him every night and having to race from further back most nights. So I like the direction that Buddy and those guys are going to challenge him. I do think Macedo is not somebody that's going to challenge them. Their team is, I feel like, been going the wrong way. They're still definitely the third best car out there, and they have a really good ability to win 10 plus races, but I don't feel like they have the teams that Buddy and Gravel have. But I do think, winning a championship and getting close to winning a championship are two different things. And I think that Gravel definitely was points racing towards the end of the year, no doubt in my mind. I think he probably ramped it up when he felt like he had to, especially, like after the deal where they blew up at Lincoln. They had some missteps there, like not normal, but I mean, you could go through the year and go, man, when did he have bad nights? And it'd be like stupid shit. Like, the one race in California, he was probably going to run second, they just had a few things like that. But other than that, their team's almost bulletproof. So, I feel like if if the Roth team can honestly stay on that same path, but open the year up stronger to actually not give him such a lead going, say, after 10 races. If they can keep that gap below 40 or something like that, I feel like that puts a little pressure on David. And because let's face it, we really haven't seen him deal with pressure throughout the year. He's already started with such a good lead that there's not a lot of pressure for him. I feel like if you put some pressure on him, I'd really like to see the difference of what the year would be like.
It's really hard too when he puts pressure on people right off the bat at Volusia because they're so lights out there. You can, like, already the way the Outlaw schedule is, you can't win an Outlaw championship and not be good at Volusia, especially with how good they are too.
So, buddy, that brings me to the second part of the question. What do you and Carson Macedo have to do to win the championship, to dethrone Gravel? What improvements do you think you need in your season?
I said at the banquet, qualifying for me. I feel like we qualified ironically a little better last year, but I feel like I've raced night and day better this year. And I think some of that's just to do with the package that we have and some of the changes we made over the off season. I feel like our car gets better throughout the night, and I feel like as the race goes on, my car gets better. And I've said it for a while too, like I've never ran a car where dirty air is almost non-existent at sometimes, as weird as that sounds. But I feel like that's a lot of it just to do with how good Dylan is. But I know personally myself, like tracks like Knoxville and Eldora are a pretty big weakness for me. I feel like Williams Grove was one of those tracks and still kind of is, but I feel like winning there last year kind of helped. Like, what's funny is when I won that race, I started sixth in my heat race because I qualified so bad. And I think I ran second and made the dash. And then they fogged out. And then I think I started sixth or fifth and passed a car or two. And then I think went 4-1 and won. But then like this year, like at the National Open, was like I think the first time I've qualified on the front row at Williams Grove, and not felt like I had to like salvage a good heat race to like start somewhat towards the front. So I feel like I raced better there and qualified better there. But I'd say the Grove or Knoxville and Eldora is pretty tough for me. I feel like for a while, like those extreme slick tracks with like no moisture, no cushion was tough for me. But I feel like we've gotten better at that as a whole. Like Weed Sport, I felt pretty good at Weed Sport, even though David beat us by a lot. Running second there that's a tough place, and I feel like we were good there. I'd say really just qualifying for me. I do think some of my struggles or our struggles to starting off slow at Volusia is like the last, and I don't want to like, not that I'm talking bad about anything at all, but the last 2 years at Volusia, I think we've blown up 2 engines a year at Volusia. And that's no fault to, anyone. Those were actually, I think most all of them were like fluke deals that we've, knock on wood, have only happened that one time, but it happened to all be in Volusia. So, that was tough. And when I flipped that first night, I was blowing up that night and then got tight in the cushion and couldn't turn out of it and crashed and then actually hurt that car. And that was a car I think we had ran previously, or a car at least that we wanted to run. And, and then we went on, we're kind of changing some things. And I think that kind of put us behind and let David build up his point lead. And then I feel like, so it's funny is when I won Kennedale, the night before, I think I ran 10th and we changed cars the next night and then won Kennedale. And I think that was the car we won with at Huset's the previous year. So I think just getting, our bearings in order and not that they weren't, but just knowing what we need and what we want right off the rip, and hopefully getting through Volusia. I think I'll feel better if we can get through that clean and clear, because I feel like most of the tracks, I've seen it a few times now, and Dylan, Nate, and Gage, I have the same people, same everything, and at least that makes me proud and but excited, because I feel like leaving or going into the off season this year versus last year, I feel like a completely different driver, and I feel like as a team we're in a different direction, but a way better direction.
So when Sam races 360s, one of the things we find between 360s and the 410s is that in the 360s, no matter what the track presents us, Sam feels like he knows the answer. And I feel like when I watch David, they're in the same situation where no matter what the track presents them, they have a direction. Do you think you guys have gotten your team now to where there's no situation where your team doesn't have like a pretty solid direction? Do you feel like you've gotten to that point?
I think so. And a lot of it's just because I believe in Dylan more than anything. And what's funny is like there's times where like we're not like, I think he knows me enough where I can tell him what I feel, and he can pretty much repeat it back to me, even if I don't even. He can basically mimic what I'm saying, even if I didn't say it to him. And I think obviously that's what Cody and David have, which is what you need to be good. But I think our lingo and like the way we conversate's been really good. And I feel like I said, last year versus this year, our car is a lot better. I feel a lot better as a driver, and I think, it just keeps snowballing. You feel driver feels better, car gets better, driver gets better, and it just keeps repeating itself. And I feel like that's where we're at this year. And but yeah, and I think we're in a good direction. And I feel like 9 times out of 10, I normally feel like we unload good. Whether hot lap, we usually always hot lap good. And qualifying, it's just usually we either qualify pretty good or average. And whether that's, I sound like a driver here, but whether it's toe draw or just the way things change, um, or sometimes when we go out, that's just as good as it's going to get. I think some of that plays into it, but I feel a lot better, and I don't think I've ever been more excited going into the following year. We'll just have to see.
So another battle that we were very interested in going into the season was the Rookie of the Year battle. We'd said on our World of Outlaw preview that this was probably the most impressive Rookie of the Year class we'd ever seen. I don't think any of us had Garrett Williamson to win. I know we mentioned him as certainly capable of winning. Connor, what did you think of Garrett Williamson's season and the rookies in general?
I thought they were really fun to watch all year. Like they all, I think all of them except for Hampton had a podium. They all had top fives. I guess like to start at the
Hampton
bottom
was close too.
Yeah, like to start at how they finish, or to start at the bottom of how they finish, right? Let's go in order from last to first. Like, Morel obviously randomly almost wins it off weekend. Like, who saw that coming? Styler G was impressive in Ohio, as you would expect. That's an area that Styler's been good at. And, he built a Nova Cup at some places he'd never been to before. So, I would say Styler's probably a little disappointed in his year, but has got something to build off of at least. Hampton, I thought at times looked like great. Like at Peavey and Eldora, Hampton looked incredible. So like he's got something to build off of. I feel like if Hampton, that time of year,
Announcers, man.
yeah, for sure. I feel like if Hampton like hired a ride or got hired for a ride to go full-time outlaw racing again, like you wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like you were at first whenever he got announced for Bill. Schoenberg got to run the Outlaws finally, but Wyndham looked good on some nights. Wyndham kind of has to figure out how to put a whole night together. He had some nights where he started up front and, looked great in the heat race and the dash. And then you get rolling in the feature and he goes backwards. So if he can figure out how to put a full night together, I think Wyndham could win Outlaw races. Cole, overall, I think I had higher expectations. They had some nights when they looked great, but some nights when they looked like way off, and there was some tracks I thought they were going to be good at that they really just weren't. I think he and Wayne changed a lot of stuff throughout the year. Like they kind of went back and forth. Like one weekend Cole was setting up the car, the next weekend Wayne was setting up the car, and I don't think they ever really found any consistency just because they were trying so much different stuff. And Garrett obviously puts together the best season, finishing highest in points and winning Rookie of the Year. Garrett really got consistent late in the year, and there were even on the nights where he tore some stuff up. He could just put together top tens better than any of the other rookies. So I thought all of them impressed. I really thought we would see one of them win a race. And I honestly think all the rookies have something to build off of going forward. So Garrett was most consistent the second half of the year, cracked the top 10 several times, a couple of top fives. Impressive there in September, I think it was. And good for him getting that Rookie of the Year award. I think Garrett's, I would not be surprised if Garrett's a guy that we see on the Outlaw Tour for several years to come. I think it would be ambitious to say that, oh, he's going to be a guy that, wins 5 or 10 races a year. But I do think he can be on this tour for a decent amount of time going forward.
Jaxon, in your opinion, which rookie do you think raised their stock the most from the start of the year to the end of the year?
Gosh, it's tough not to say Hampton. I know they kind of fizzled out there at the end, but I think him making it through the whole season was nobody thought that was going to happen. And then you see him, like Connor said, at places like Peebly and Eldora, and they're ripping. And they did end up having a top 5 this year, which that's pretty impressive. But I kind of agree with Connor though. Same stuff. Like Garrett definitely raised his stock a lot. He was really impressive at the end of the year. Ran well at Charlotte. I believe he had a really good Huset's as well. So I would say Hampton or probably Williamson.
Sam, at the start of the year, I guessed that no rookie would win a race this year with the World of Outlaws. Cole actually won a high limit race. I think people underestimate, like we're calling this the best World of Outlaws rookie class of all time, and they didn't get a win. And Buddy kind of implied it earlier when he didn't apologize for beating you at Kennedale, but I don't think people underestimate how hard your rookie season is on the World of Outlaw Tour. And the story I always remember you telling me, I wasn't there for, it was your first World of Outlaw race when you decided to go on the tour versus how the rest of the season went.
Oh, at Volusia?
Yes.
Yeah, we actually won the dash first night out. And we ended up backing up and run 5th in the feature. But, obviously from then on out, we didn't really have a lot of good runs. And it really wasn't good to run that good your first race because you're thinking, oh, man, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. And then, 40 races in, you're ready to go home and cry and curl up in a ball because you're getting your ass whooped so bad. But
I think that's exactly what happened to Landon Crawley last year. Remember, he was on the pole the first night, runs like 25th, and just never was the same.
Got his ass kicked all year.
Yeah. And our situation is quite a bit different than these guys. We were just a family team doing our deal. I was kind of running the whole thing at 19, 20 years old. So quite a bit different than what these guys are doing. But, man, it's tough. If you don't have the right people behind you, the right operation behind you, it's not an easy feat to go run out there I always tell people this all the time. There are established racers that are very, very good at what they do. and it'd be hard pressed for them to ever win an outlaw race. So, for the rookie class that was out there, I'm not surprised nobody didn't win one. I mean, you've got if you took Buddy Kofoid, David Gravel, and Carson Macedo, and you account for the amount of races they win, well, there's not a lot left for everybody else to win. So, that's it's a tough time right now. I think the fields are very, very deep, way deeper than when I was racing the outlaw deal. I think it's to win an outlaw race now is probably as tough as it's ever been.
I think I said at the beginning of the year that Cole had the best chance out of all of them to win a race. And I feel like at the tracks that he could have won at, he struggled. So
Right.
Buddy, you obviously raced with these guys all year. What driver, just from your time in the car, do you feel like made the most improvements of the rookie class?
Buddy's biased. He and Garrett are best.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with both of you. Zach and Garrett probably the two most. Like I think it was Eldoro and Zach ran. I don't know I think he ran fourth or sixth. I think he ran
That was Eldora in May.
sixth.
He ran sixth, but he ran like third the whole race.
Yeah, so I think I passed him coming to the checkered. I was behind him the whole time, and I don't think I've ever seen someone run the bottom like that in a long time. And I'm hilling the fence, trying to pass him, and like finally got him the last lap. I mean, so I think like that's tough to do, but also, I mean, you got to be consistent everywhere, and that's to me being consistent the whole year is the hardest thing to do. I think Garrett did a good job. I think they got off to a slow start, but they started rolling, end of summer. I think Houston's, did he run podium 2 or 3 nights of the 4?
1 of the nights, yeah.
And Houston's is a hard track, actually. And like, ironically, when I was talking about dirty air, I feel like for some reason Houston's throws off a lot of dirty air, and it's hard to make speed there. And I think some of it, ironically, I think actually in general in some places, I think the more humid it is, I think sometimes dirtier is worse, as weird as that may sound. So it's hard to be good there. And then Garrett qualified exceptionally good at Charlotte and raced better than probably what it showed. Other than that, I don't know. I think Cole did a good job at, there's tracks that he probably surprised me that he was good at, even places that I probably didn't think that I would be good at, and he did good. But I think the hardest thing is just being consistent everywhere, not just places that you think someone will be good at or that you think you yourself will be good at. I feel like at times you can't. I mean, you want to prioritize places that you think fit in your wheelhouse or fit your package, but also if you want to be an outlaw, like, you kind of got to just learn to prioritize every track, or even the ones that you feel like are your weakest points. Because if you're going to be there for a long time, you're probably going to see those same tracks again.
So we went going from a pretty positive story there to a pretty negative story. I don't think you can really talk about this season without talking about the results of Donny Schatz this year. He had a winless season. I feel like in memory, going into the season, a lot of people thought this might be a revival year for Danny. People thought, I keep saying Danny. People thought it might be a revival year for Donny, and really it just started bad at Volusia, and it didn't get any better from there. Connor, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so obviously the whole TSR thing just ended as a disaster, right? Like he and Todd, for whatever reason didn't like each other. And you can sit here all day and pick apart why he and Todd Devnich didn't work out. Somebody that's a fan of Donnie would say, oh, Todd doesn't have enough experience as a crew chief. Somebody on Todd's side would say, Donnie's past his prime. Donnie, wasn't, mentally there, whatever. You can argue about that all day. They had the whole motor thing, inconsistency with Ford at the beginning of the year. They switched a couple months into the year, never really found anything. So the whole TSR thing was just a disaster. And then, after that, he bounces around so much, like never really was able to find anything consistent. The big game thing, the big game thing lasted one night because he wrecked the Leinster car. The Leinster car has never been an outlaw or a national car. Hardly races outside of River Cities and Huset's. And then, he gets in Paul Silva stuff, completely different stuff than what he's used to. Struggled a little bit at first. By the end of it, like that last night at Tulare, Donnie was ripping. Like he ran 5th at Tulare. It's the best he's ran at Tulare in probably 4 or 5 years. Was incredible in it, but that was the end of his time in that car because it was just for the West Coast. Then he gets in this JVI deal. They hardly had any motors. They had a crew that hadn't been on the road in years. They didn't have a crew chief. Donnie's trying to do it all. And they had some nights when they got a little better and probably used Donnie's being the badass that he is, to find their way onto the podium at Charlotte. There was another night, I think, at Sharon, they were decent. So after the whole TSR thing, like he was dealing with so much unfamiliarity, didn't really have the best scenarios around him, and didn't have any consistency. So the whole year is just a wash. He needs to find something, and there's a lot of talk about what he's going to do next year. Nobody really knows exactly what it is. And like Jackson and I are friends with Donnie. We talk to Donnie a lot at the racetrack, and like we get bits and pieces from him. But even us, like we have no idea what the exact plan is for next year. But whatever it is, it needs to be an operation that's ready to roll at Volusia and ready to win, fairly early on in the year, and just something that's consistent and he can build on all throughout the season. So, it was honestly a depressing year for Donnie. I hope that he kind of takes the off season to get, I'm not going to say mentally right because he's still very much mentally invested in being a championship contender and winning races, but I do think Donnie needs some time away from the racetrack to let the noise drown out a little bit, not show up every week and hear people talk about, oh, he got fired from TSR, this went down, blah, 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 blah. Not have to worry about what Tony's doing and saying on a podcast, not have to worry about what people are saying behind the scenes. Just drown the noise out and focus on moving forward. I think that'll be healthy for Donnie. And yeah, I hope he comes back. In my heart, I don't think he's done yet. I really don't.
Jackson, you guys obviously know him better than we do, but he's made it pretty clear to us he wouldn't even consider running high limit. So I have to go off the assumption that he's coming back to the World of Outlaws if he does come back to a series. At Charlotte, he really started to put it together. Do you think that's a sign that he was getting it together, or do you think that will carry into next year if he does have a ride?
I think so. I think what that really showed me, and he did an interview with Kyle McFadden after the night he ran on the podium, and he just, something about the interview, he just seemed motivated, like really just to prove to everybody that he's not washed. He doesn't suck. He didn't forget just how to drive a race car, So I really think that race kind of lit a fire under his ass, and I think we're gonna see a really motivated Donny Schatz next year.
Sam,
But I definitely think he proved to himself that at Charlotte that he can still do it.
Sam, you were parked beside him at Volusia. You saw some things with the team that troubled you it was pretty obvious. They couldn't really hide them. And I know you're a big Donnie believer. Where do you see things going for Donnie in the future? Do you think people are writing him off way too quick?
Well, fans are going to do whatever they're going to do. You really can't really worry about that. But I think the whole racing industry knows that, a guy as decorated as he is, you get him in the right situation, right people around him, good things are going to happen. He's been doing it too long to not be considered good or I feel like, I do feel like there are issues for him with the tires and stuff. Like, it's not his normal feel. But I also feel like if he has a good enough crew chief and good enough people behind him, which most drivers that are doing good right now have, he's going to be able to manage and operate. I don't think it's an issue. I just hope he gets the right situation for himself. I think that I know he was kind of down on himself there at one point. It sounded like, and I've never seen that Donny Schatz before, so that kind of bothers me in a sense because the older you get, you don't know how many more opportunities you're going to get at certain things, and when the end is coming, like, you just don't know that, and I'd hate to see him get that way. I think that run at Charlotte probably did revive him a little bit, and I do think that he probably has something pretty good that everybody says they don't know about, but he probably has something pretty good coming on next year.
So, like, I'll tell you the point when I knew that the TSR thing was going to end. The point I got worried, and I'm probably peeling the curtain back a little bit too much, but it is what it is. Like,
that's what we do here, Connor.
Yeah, so I want to say it was, and Jackson can correct me on the timing if I'm getting it wrong timing wise. I think it was Bike Week. So going back to DCN, they had gone through a couple of motors, like had a couple of motors blow up. Bike Week comes around, and did we get both nights of Bike Week in this year? I think we did. I don't remember if it was the first. Yeah, okay. So it was the first night of Bike Week. Someone from TSR, and I won't get into any names because I don't want to release like their, whatever. I don't want to out anybody or expose anybody. But somebody from TSR came to me and said, "Hey, we had a lot of problems with our motors during DCN. I'm always walking around talking to crews and trying to figure out the scoop of what's going on. I didn't see anyone from TSR out that day. Someone from TSR seeked me out and said, "Hey, we obviously had a lot of problems with motors during DCN. I know you covered that. I just want you to know what our plan is for tonight. We have two different motors. One of them is better suited for qualifying. One of them is better suited for racing. We're going to change the motor after qualifying from our qualifying motor to our racing motor. So if you see us changing a motor and you cover it, don't freak out about it. Tell everybody that this was planned. We knew this was going to happen all along." And mind you, they're still on Fords at this point. And I said, "Hey, thanks for letting me know." So like they told me that, and the reporter in me is ready for it. So qualifying ends, that's where I am. I'm up at the 15 trailer ready for this to happen. And sure enough, they roll the car in, they change the motor, they put another one in. I cover it. It's live on DirtVision. We show the world, whatever. I tell that story as I'm doing the report. The team has planned this all day. They've got two different motors. One's for qualifying, one's for racing, whatever. So I tell that story to the world. Donny seeks me out the next day. So, and Donny and I are friends. So Donny didn't come up to me like shitty in any way or trying to be a dick, whatever. Donny was genuinely curious. He was like, "Hey, like, somebody sent me like a video of the report you did last night about us planning an engine change, like before the race even started. Like, where did you get that?" And I said, like, somebody from like your team told me that. And he was like, "Dude, that is the craziest fucking thing I have ever heard. We never, ever plan an engine change. We have never done that whatsoever. Like, I don't know who would ever tell you that." So I'm not going to get into who was right, who was wrong, but the biggest thing that stood out to me was like, holy shit, that team is disconnected. Like, they're either not all on the same page, somebody's lying to somebody. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that the person that told me was wrong. I'm not going to say that Donny was wrong. I don't know who was right. I don't know who was wrong. But I was like, holy shit, this is Tony Stewart Racing. This is supposed to be a top professional team in sprint car racing, and they're all out of sorts, and nobody knows what the hell's going on. So that was the moment to me when I was like, all right, this deal's probably going to blow up.
So who was it?
I don't want to get into any names and piss anybody off or accuse anybody of lying, because the person that told me that, like, maybe they weren't lying. Maybe that's what they thought was happening. And maybe the person that told me that was being told that by somebody else. So I don't want to get into any names. I could just tell that it was a clusterfuck, is what I'm trying to say.
So who was it?
When he
Okay.
got out of the car after willing that thing into the Nationals on Saturday, and I don't know if it was you, Connor, but told somebody he got kissed on the ding dong by a fairy, which he did. That was the only way he made the race. I pretty much kind of gathered that it was over after that.
Yeah, Wade Onger had the pleasure of doing that interview. I missed out on that one.
So, buddy, all these fans are sitting here saying Donnie's lost it, blah, blah, blah. You're inside the car, you're racing him. Is he still making great decisions? Is he still the Donnie that everybody wants him to be?
I want to say yes. I mean, it's tough because I really haven't raced around Donnie that long. Like probably 22, 23 is like when I really started racing against Donnie a lot. As the fan in me, I would say yes. He absolutely does. As a driver in me, I would still say yes. I think hypothetically, if he's a little off, or when maybe he was off, I want to say this is just me speculating, and I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way. Maybe it almost seemed like it could have been a confidence thing at times. I think even before the TSR thing happened. And it's just hard to say, what was going on. My AirPods are dying already. Behind the scenes, but I still think he does. He proved he can. Maybe not as consistently as he would have liked, or as we've seen him still prove himself in the past, but I still 110% think Donnie does. I think probably the biggest change that you've seen in the last few years is probably the aggression level rise in sprint car racing, or the different style of aggression. And I feel like Donnie's always been known to be a finesse guy, and I kind of think the certain style of aggression is maybe just taken over. So maybe it kind of seems like Donnie's not what he used to be, but I still think it's there, has never left. And like, it's a saying that everyone uses, but like, it's like riding a bike. Like, once you do it, you don't forget how to do it. And there's absolutely no way that Donnie forgot how to drive a race car whatsoever. It's still there. You just got to find it. If it's a little gone, he'll find it. I hope he does. I mean, I respect Donnie, and I want to race against Donnie for a long time. And personally, I want it to be on the Outlaw Tour.
I think what Sam said earlier really is true in a way. I think the tires are like, it's just not a feel that he's used to having or necessarily likes or wants. So I just think his tires are changing, and like Buddy said, the level of aggressiveness, he's the cleanest racer there is.
So on a more positive note, no one really raised their stock more than Spencer Bayston did in the second or post Knoxville Nationals, or maybe even during Nationals, given his run. And now he's gotten himself into the 17 car. I was blown away. I don't really know when it happened, but I guess I should have. We're talking about a team that has nearly 50 World of Outlaw wins. We're talking about a team that basically has Sheldon Haudenschild in the Hall of Fame if he retires now. This has been a very, very successful team. Maybe not in points, but they've definitely racked up a pile of wins. Connor, we've seen Spencer struggle now in rides he's not comfortable in, and we've seen him be really good in rides he's comfortable in. How do you think he's going to run with the 17?
Man, and I'm going to be honest, like, and I'm not just saying this, I really think they're going to be pretty good. I think Kyle Pruitt has raised his stock a lot. and I don't really know what's true, but we were hearing rumors in probably, September, October that, um, you know, the SJMR had hired Pruitt. And then we heard, they're having a hard time finding a driver because there's uncertainty around working with Pruitt. He's not really been on the national scene that long. But man, like in my opinion, like he raised his stock a ton the last couple weeks of the year. Like Sheldon going out in that car, being pretty fast at New Egypt and Lincoln, and then being really good at Putnamville after he wrecked, and being really good at Angel Park. Um, and then Spencer going out and running top 5 twice in that car at World Finals. Man, I thought they were great. So they'll probably have some, up and downs. I think it might be hard for them to maintain that consistency just because Spencer and Kyle are a new pairing. But I think overall, I see them winning probably at least 3 races next year on the Outlaw Tour, maybe more. And man, I think they're going to be solid. Spencer's got talent. Like he's proven that. It's just a matter of being in the right situation and putting it all together. But there's no way you can watch Spencer Bayston at Tulare, or Spencer Bayston at World Finals last, 2 weeks ago and tell me that Spencer Bayston doesn't have talent. So he's got it. So far, they're putting it together and all signs are trending towards them being good, but, we'll see what happens come a 90 race schedule, but I have high hopes.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to win a race or two before May. I think
I agree.
post-Volusia, there will be some tracks that'll be favorable for those guys.
Sam, I've asked you about this deal, I think, twice now, so I'll let you off the hook on it. Buddy, what are your thoughts on Spencer hopping in the 17?
I think it'll be good. I like Spencer. I think he's a good addition. I think he's good to get back with the Outlaws personally, but I think it will probably be a breath of fresh air for him if I had to guess, as coming from a driver to driver. Like I've been in situations and then gotten in the Roth car and was like, I feel like I could relax. And I don't want to say that's maybe exactly what he's feeling, but I'm sure I'm sure him running good in the Tarleton car and running good in Silva and Kozlowski's car was probably help him breathe a little easy once he got that ride, and then backing it up with 2 good runs at Charlotte, which I feel like's not an easy track at all. I'm sure he's probably able to relax, for the first time in a while. I'm sure he's got his confidence back, and I mean he almost won Tulare. He almost beat David head to head to do it. So Spencer's good, and sometimes it just takes finding the right thing. Like I feel like for me, I said at the banquet as well. I feel like getting with Roth was kind of like my saving grace almost. So maybe that could be a situation for him where I'm sure if it works out good, you want to build a home with the team, and if you want to win an Outlaw championship or any championship, you got to build a home with a team. So I think it'll be good. I think as a driver, I'm sure he's probably excited, but also, happy about being able to relax and just, it doesn't hurt to go in with fresh everything sometimes. Sometimes a reset is what's needed, really, in my opinion.
So, obviously, you can't talk about the business of the World of Outlaws without talking about High Limit. And we discussed on, I think it was our last pod, that whenever the World of Outlaws have faced competition, they've just stayed the course, and within a year that the competition has fallen off. We're now 2 years in, 3, you can call it 3 if you want. It's clear that High Limit isn't going away anytime soon. And there seems to be a call from fans to make some changes with the World of Outlaws. I'll start with you, Connor. Do you think the World of Outlaws are going to stay the course this year, or do you think you're going to start seeing some changes? And if you do think you're going to see some changes, what do you think those might be?
I think most of it's going to stay the course. I And again, I don't have any inside information or any intel at all, honestly, in terms of what they're going to do differently. If I had to make an educated guess, I think we'll see increases in points fund and or tow money. Again, I don't know that for sure. That's an educated guess. And I think that's probably the only major thing that'll change. I don't see them changing the format. I don't think they're not going to do a major overhaul of the schedule. At this point, I don't think that's quite necessary, at least yet. Um, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of earth shattering, groundbreaking changes. Educated guesses they, you know, raise the stakes a little bit in terms of money that they're putting in drivers' pockets and raise the bar there like they've done a lot over the years. They've increased points funds. They've increased tow money a lot over the years, multiple times. So I think they'll continue to do that and raise that bar, but I don't see like a whole lot of ground shaking, earth shattering changes. I'll wrap my point on this by telling you, and I don't know when this episode will come out exactly, but I've not said this publicly yet. I have an interview, sit-down interview with Brian Carter that's taking place later this week. Brian doesn't really do a whole lot of long-form sit-down interviews, and the ones he does do, they don't, the interviewers haven't really dived into the whole high limit versus outlaw thing with him. And when I approached Brian about doing this interview, that was one of the, things I approached him with, and he was more than willing to do it. So that interview will be out sometime next week, the week of Thanksgiving. I don't know the exact day and time yet, as we haven't even shot it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And I hope that some of the answers that you just asked, or some of the questions you just asked me and questions the whole sprint car world are asking will get answered. So looking forward to that.
Jaxon, if the World of Outlaws could make one change, what would you like to see them make for next 2026?
I wish we could. I've been saying this for years. I wish we could do the West Coast swing early in the season again and run California in March and work our way back. I wish we could race our way out through, hit our Talladega, Magnolia, hit Kennedale, race somewhere, Vado, I don't know, on the way out, and then run up through California and then race our way back through the north. The last time the Outlaws went to the West Coast in the spring was some of the best races that year. We went to the Oildale track in Bakersfield, and Paris was even good that year. All the races were good. We only had one rain out. I know in years past that was always the issue, was weather, but I wish we could bring that swing back. That was always a lot of fun.
Now, Sam, we heard Connor say that he doesn't expect a lot of changes. And there's this perception amongst fans that, oh man, High Limit's really getting after it. They're really hurting the Outlaws. But I know in private talks with you, you really don't think High Limit is having the effect on the Outlaws that their perception is. Could you talk about that and expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason everybody thinks that there's some massive impact is that, well, High Limit's got a lot of buzz, they do, and that's probably something that they promote probably better than what the Outlaws have done. But, the situation with the Outlaws is, how do you know what to do if you've never had competition before? What road do you take? And for them to kind of sit there and let things happen, honestly, I think was smart by them. I've been to a lot of outlaw races this year, watched a lot on DirtVision. Crowds are still phenomenal. Probably some of the better crowds I've seen, to be honest. I don't feel like fan count's way down. I feel like High Limit had some struggles here and there, with some fan count. I think they're actually getting better on their end now, but I don't think there's a real big issue for them. I think financially DirtVision is taking the cake. I think with that, they have a really strong business plan, and the way it's all set up, I see that I don't see any issues there. And if there really was major issues, they'd be making major changes. And obviously they're not. It's kind of like the stuff we were talking about, with, announcers. Johnny's iconic. He's been around for years. It's what we know, right? With adding Connor to the mix, it's something, it's something like traditionally we haven't seen years past, but it's a good look for them as well. I think there's so many good things that they are doing. I feel like their production is way better than High Limits with Flow. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are on here. It's obvious from a viewer, just the camera shots, the angles, how clear everything comes across. It is a better product. But I think, having High Limit there obviously has made the Outlaws put some more money out on the table, and I feel like the Outlaws have been successful enough that they're able to do that. And yes, is it going to impact them? Yes, it will. But they're also able to sell a lot more advertisement on DirtVision as well. So I think from a business standpoint, I think the Outlaws are totally fine. I think they're being smart in their approach, and I don't think you can just take them down. I just don't see that happening.
So you said, like, they've never had competition, which obviously they've never had competition to this level, but like, you walk around our office and like they feel like, oh yeah, we've had competition like the whole time. And like in a way they have. They had the ASA or whatever it was called back in the day. Then they had NST. The All Stars in a way were, competitors with them. I think hopefully Buddy makes his way back. There he is. I think
I don't know why they just died.
they also I think had competing from a streaming standpoint. Yeah, USAT and the All Stars and even late model stuff is obviously not a direct competitor with World of Outlaws sprint cars, but from a streaming standpoint, all that stuff was really popular being streamed on Flow. So they were competing for viewership with those series at that point. So they feel like they've always had competition, and they feel like the way that they've not necessarily beat, but stayed consistent throughout that competition over the years is just to stay the course, stay true to who they are and what they've always done. And they feel like that's worked for them in the past whenever it comes to other series of competitors they've dealt with. So in my opinion, that's how they're going to continue to look at this High Limit thing too.
Buddy, we asked this question to Tyler Courtney, and I just asked it to Jaxon. Courtney gave us a great answer for High Limit. We asked him what change he'd like to make with the series. Are there any changes you'd like to see? Is there a little tweak or something you'd like to see within the World of Outlaws?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Think of something, Mike.
Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about it, just because I feel like whenever I'm at the track, like I'm in like full race mode. So like my mindset's obviously in a different direction. But then I feel like when we're not at the track, like I'm kind of disconnected. So I never really thought about it, but I don't know. Maybe if we could maybe like speed up the program at times, or not always have a support class, I think I would be very happy with that. I don't know if I'm alone in thinking that, but other than that, like
Definitely not alone.
I feel like the Outlaws non-biased still puts out a great product, and I do think I'll use that as my answer. But at the same time, I do think you have to cater to some people in that area for, those classes that, they watch on a weekly basis. But I would say just maybe program speed, whatever that looks like, and maybe I don't think it would hurt to, be the only class for certain races. Especially like if we have like a 3 to 5 hour drive the next night somewhere, definitely would not be against being the only class.
Okay. I only have a couple more questions. My first one, I'll go to you, Jaxon. What was your biggest surprise of 2025 with the World of Outlaws?
Don't steal mine.
That's a good
Onboard
question.
cameras.
I don't want to talk about those yet. I don't know. Come back to me on that one. I'm not ready yet.
Well, Connor sounds like he's got an answer.
Yeah, Connor, go ahead.
Baylog. So I'm not surprised he won 3 races, but like Bill had some nights when he looked really good. Bill had some nights when he was like better than the 2, like by far the best car in the pit area. And like major leaps and bounds for Baylog this year. So he gets my biggest surprise of 2025.
He was
Buddy.
exceptional at Paris.
Buddy,
Yes.
we already asked you if you felt bad about beating Sam at Kennedale. What's it like knowing everybody wanted him to beat you at Huset's?
Actually, I've never been asked that, and I've never thought about that.
I can tell you I was at Skagit watching the race, and the world wanted Bill Baylog to win, and you ruined it again.
I don't feel bad about that, but I do. It paid good, and I like Todd's money. No, I think like Bill is actually he's really good at Huset's too. I feel like last year he ran 3rd to Carson and I, so he's been really good there. And I think Bill is more relatable just because well, I think his personality and how he comes off, he's pretty reserved. I mean, I'm pretty reserved, but he's very reserved, and he does a lot of it himself, and I think people like that. So I think story-wise, it would be really cool. So I think that would probably be part of the reason why. But no, Bill did a really good job this year, and I wasn't actually not the least bit surprised that he won one of those nights at all.
Low key, I think he has one of the best short track programs in the country. Like,
I agree.
it's not just Huset's; he does good at every short track.
He's good, and he's only going to get better too, honestly.
Sam, what was your biggest surprise of 2025 with the World of Outlaws?
Honestly, man, I felt like Shoehart was going to start a run again, and man, I just haven't seen it. He has the ability to do it. And I just, like I say, obviously they got rid of Pruitt at the end of the year. And I don't know if they were thinking he was going to help them turn things around or what the case was. But I don't know. I felt like when he was a lot more hands-on, I felt like they were better. And I feel like now that they've maybe tried to take all that load off of him and make him maybe let him focus more on driving, I think maybe it's hurting him, and usually that's not the case. But I think with their deal, the way he was raised around Bobby and Bobby always being so hands-on and taught him a certain way, I feel like it's really important for him to be the guy that's a little more involved in his operation for him to succeed. And I think, I felt like after you won that $1 million, maybe it would have pumped him up a little more. And I've seen him not go the right direction. So that was probably the biggest surprise to me, because I felt like they've built their program up really well the last 5 years. Their motor program, just everything looking a lot more professional than they did years before. I felt like they were going to start being a bigger contender, and they just haven't been.
I think people forget how good they were early in the year. Like the first, February, March, and April, they were top 5 like almost every race. Like they were solid, really good, and then they just kind of fell off.
Sam, what was Bobo's answer there?
That's not my dog.
No,
Oh,
so
I
that's
thought that
Buddy's
was
dog,
Bobo.
it sounds like.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was 100% Sam's dog.
Yeah,
I
I don't
guess
know why it's not my dog.
You mean Alexis's dog?
No, I'm in California. That's
Oh, that's
well,
right.
actually, it's
I
my
forgot
sister's
about
dog.
I guess I shouldn't have deferred because Sam went ahead and took what I thought of. I would have thought the 1S would have had more wins, more top fives this year, and I really thought them having Pruitt, taking that load off of Logan would have definitely made them better. Because I just feel like at this level, you can't be your own crew chief and drive the race car and be as successful as the 83 and those guys. But I felt like at the big races, they started third in the nationals, ran fifth. I mean, that's still good, but in the past, Logan showed winning speed at the Knoxville Nationals, and I just didn't see it. This year.
I've got one for you, Jackson. The most surprising for you was Maggie Selzy leading tour in the middle of the year.
That was pretty surprising.
Buddy, did you have anything that struck you or surprised you from this year?
I wouldn't say it was like, I don't know. I was actually kind of surprised that the 2 and the 41 had I don't know, engine DNFs. I'll say that. Because I feel like normally their stuff's very reliable. So I think they each had a couple engine DNFs, which was a little surprising. I think I was a little surprised in general that they both had some of the DNFs they did because they're crazy consistent, at least just finishing races in general. So I'd say that was, to me as a driver, a little surprising, but I mean also it's stuff out of their control and it's out of anyone's control, so it can happen to anyone, but I just feel like you don't see it happen to them that often, so I guess that was a little surprising. But other than that,
I felt that way, especially with the 41.
Yeah. I was a little surprised by that. Other than that, I don't really get to think about stuff like that. I was a little surprised how good Connor Morell was at Offseason. He did a really good job there.
That was nuts.
I could not believe that.
I got out and saw that his number was like second, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like
he almost won the race.
Yeah, no, that's impressive.
He passed us, you pricks. We ran third.
That's the biggest disappointment of the year is Dylan Westbrook not winning it off weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
So, Connor, what's your bold prediction for 2026?
Oh man, that's the one that I am gonna have to think about. Man, I don't know. Like to me, like in my head, just because I feel like I am around it so much and follow it so close, so I feel like every prediction I can make, at least in my view, would be educated. So like, I don't think it's bold to say Donnie's gonna win a race next year because I really feel like he's going to. My bold prediction, Donnie wins a race at Eldora next year.
Jackson, what do you got for us?
That's not that bold.
Could be the night before, could be May. Eldora is still one of Donnie's best places. So that's my bold prediction.
Jackson,
my
what do you got
bold prediction will be that the sophomore class, this past year's rookie class, whoever that may be that comes back, we can expect that Cole and Garrett, Wyndham, those guys will be back. I think those guys could combine for 3 to 5 wins next year. In some variety.
Sam, what's your bold prediction?
Well, that was extra bold, I think. But my bold prediction is the 83 will get it done next year.
Damn it.
I hope that's right.
I do believe it.
Buddy, we're not giving you a bold prediction because we pretty much feel like yours is just going to be what Sam's was.
Well, no, I wasn't going to say that. Just, I don't know.
What do you have?
Saying that. I was going to piggyback off of Jackson's, actually. I would say whoever comes back, I'd say maybe one of them at least gets a win, I would say.
Yeah. That's what I would say.
Or on the low end, or consistent top fives, maybe.
The only
I'd say
reason
that.
I say 3 to 5 is because I wouldn't be shocked if Garrett or Cole could. I feel like they could win 2 races somewhere, and then the other could win 1. You know,
I'd say if those, my bold prediction is if they both come back, one or both win at least 1 race. I'll say that.
and I think Wyndham's very capable as a driver, and I think a whole year with sides under his belt, I think they could make some noise somewhere for sure.
So I had on here, I was going to ask people their championship predictions, but I don't think that's really fair to do when, the guy that's run second is sitting right there. So we're going to actually skip that because I think you guys have actually put in thought to something that we generally always forget about, but people seem to really enjoy, and that is our talking shit segment. And Connor had a talking shit segment, and he was ready to go, and he was texting me 5 days ago ready to talk shit, and then it dried up on him. So, yeah, Connor, have you recovered, and do you have some shit you'd like to talk?
I do, yeah.
I'm sure you do.
We won't do what I was going to talk about before, because I don't want to shit on somebody that now doesn't deserve it. But what I will talk shit about is these people that sit here and like I call things how I see it. And if Rico was better than Buddy and David all year, I would admit it. But the people that still sit here, and I know you guys have talked about it multiple times on the podcast, and I agree with you guys. I think you guys agree with me. At least Sam and Daryl, and I know Jackson agrees with me because he and I have talked about it. But the people that still try to sit here and just say out of spite that high limit is tougher and harder to win at than the Outlaws, and that basically high limit drivers are better than outlaw drivers. So not only, if you really dive into gravel versus Abreu, not only are gravel's average finishes and average qualifying much better. Yeah, Rico won more races, but Rico won some local shows at Knoxville. He won 360 Nationals. So I think that was 2 wins right there. So my good friend John Gibson did this thing. He took the top 3 drivers from each series, which for us would be obviously Buddy, David, and Macedo. And for high limit, I think everybody agrees their best 3 were Abreu, Sweet, and Reitzel. And he took the 8 races in which all 6 of those drivers competed against each other for the whole year and used the outlaw point scale and basically made a point system, a point standings for those 8 races in which they all competed against each other. And if you use the high limit point scale, the order wouldn't change. The only thing that would change would be the gaps would change a little bit. But the points order for those 8 races, which they all competed against each other, would be gravel, Kofoid, Sweet, then Rico, then Macedo, then Reitzel. So that, in my opinion, is just one small example of why the outlaw field is better. The Outlaws are harder to win with, and gravel and Kofoid were the 2 best drivers in the country in 2025. End of story. There's really no debate. There's really no legitimate debate around it, in my opinion.
People hate numbers and facts, Connor. They hate them.
They do. Yep.
Yeah, obviously Sam and we've stated before, I think the top 3 are points champions in high limit, and that's not shitting on Rico or any of them. Sam and I don't, Sam says it like more than I say it. The 20 races that you guys have on your schedule additionally, Sam, I think you think that's a big deal, don't you?
No, it's huge to run 20 more times is, it's hard to beat people that race. It's like the reason why when I go race with the World of Outlaws, it's hard for me to run good. I don't race as much as they do. They race, they do the same thing all year long. With high limit, they have so much time off. And their schedule's ramping up a little bit this year, but I feel like when you're not racing, you're just not making ground. You're not learning things. You're not in rhythm. And outlaw guys, they never get out of rhythm. Like there's not an off week. There's not time to go, fuck off for a weekend and go on a little small vacation. There isn't that, like they're racers, and the high limit, like with their approach is quite a bit different. And I think it takes their quality of their guys and takes them down just a notch. It doesn't mean their guys aren't good. Their guys are still good. They've got a nice field of cars, but it's not the World of Outlaws.
Yeah, and like people will say, oh, well, those weekends the Outlaws were off, high limit raced. The whole high limit field did not show up to the National Open. Like it's not like they are filling in all these races with the World of Outlaw races. They are taking breaks that the Outlaws aren't getting. And on top of that, I thought you'd say it also gives the Outlaw guys an opportunity to be better on their cars. Wouldn't you agree, Sam?
Well, yeah, that's essentially what I meant by what I was saying. When they get to race that much, these crew chiefs say they got 20 more nights to make adjustments and changes to better their race car. I think it's criminal that high limit doesn't start till March. I think that's, I know, okay, well, their guys get to come down and run Volusia. Well, that's good, but a lot of them don't. Not all of them come down there. So when they don't do that, man, look at Bryn Mark's start to his season. He's a prime example.
Look at Rico.
They didn't go to Volusia. Then they went to Alabama and they looked like hammered ass down there. They ran like I would run if I went there, and so, and then by the end of the year, Brent Marks is hauling ass. He picked up a lot of speed towards the end, and I honestly think it's the lack of racing. I really do, and I think, they obviously switched cars this year too, so I think that was something to do with what they had going on as well, and I think maybe they started to figure things out, but Outlaw teams would figure that out faster because they've already raced a lot more.
Buddy, you've been awfully quiet through this.
Is it my turn to talk shit?
No, nothing to add on this particular topic.
The way I see it is, so I like to race as much as humanly possible. Like, that's why I'm here running the midget, so I can be good for Chili Bowl, because Chili Bowl is one of the highest things on my list. After the West Coast swing, I'm off for like 2 weeks, and then fly to Australia, fly back and run the Chili Bowl. Right up day after Chili Bowl, fly back to Australia, and then back home. And then I think the next week or week and a half later, we're in Volusia. And that is perfectly fine by me. I signed up to race 90 to 100 times. And I think in the owners' meeting in Charlotte, hypothetical, I don't remember which weekend it was, they talked about maybe taking it off. And I didn't say anything, but I'm like, I came here to race 90 times a year. There's no chance in hell I want to take any weekend off. And I think on the flip side too is the more I race, obviously I feel like the better we get and the better chance we have at beating David. But I mean, I grew up racing a lot, and that's one reason why I prefer the Outlaws is by how much we race. And it's supposed to be hard and grueling and exhausting and everything. But I think racing with the Outlaws makes you better than any series, I feel like, in the country. And I feel like the last 2 years that I've raced with the Outlaws, I've figured out that I feel like it's been my biggest sense of progression. And I think that is in part due to racing so much, is eventually you have to figure it out. So that's kind of my 2 cents. If I was racing with Highland, I would think it'd feel kind of weird waiting like a month to start our season after the other series already started their season. And we also end a month after they do as well. So I just feel like the more you race, the better you're going to get. That's just my opinion.
Jaxon, I'm pretty sure you have some shit talking you'd like to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish race fans were a little bit better, honestly. I mean, just after what happened at Placerville with all the NASCAR fans that are Kyle Larson fans that are cussing Jason Pursley and giving him the finger and throwing shit on the racetrack and telling everybody on social media that he just straight lined him on purpose because Jason's a piece of shit and all this other stuff. Like, yes, Jason, he wrecked Kyle Larson, but I don't think that makes Jason Pursley a horrible human being. And I just think throwing shit on the racetrack in Victory Lane is just not cool. And people standing up at the catch fence giving him the bird and F you and F that and all this. Like, I get passion and dirt racing and all that, but
That's beyond.
I just think race fans got to be better. Just because Kyle Larson got crashed by Jason Pursley one time, it doesn't make Jason Pursley a shitty race car driver and a horrible person.
Wait till they see what happened. Wait till they see what happened to Mason Daniel.
Oh.
It's a good point.
I wasn't even going to bring that up, Daryl, but
we're talking shit.
You only got that because I said something about it at
I didn't think you'd want to take credit for it. That's why I went with it. And I didn't think you'd say it either.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
No, it's like that is the reality. Like, not being a shithead, like Kyle Larson has ended a guy's career. And I don't expect the average fan to know that, but my point is it doesn't make Kyle Larson a saint. And
there's definitely a double-edged sword, and I think that's what Buddy's going to go into a little bit about.
Yeah, like
there's kind of a double standard with how Kyle races people sometimes.
Well,
yeah,
no,
Buddy's also lived the gravel thing.
I was more going to piggyback off of the fan thing. That was when you texted me, Daryl, about figuring out what you want to talk shit about. I'm like, man, I don't know. But my biggest thing is, like, I do read a lot of stuff on social media, and it just blows my mind that if someone likes another series, that you have to crucify the other series or hate on it to the point where you would have thought that they attack that person in some way, shape, or form. And I just don't understand it. I feel like that's the biggest downfall in racing that we have right now is, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And now with social media, everyone can have a public opinion. I just don't see what the draw is or the gain is to, and I feel like it's more hating on the Outlaws because High Limit's the new kid on the block essentially, and obviously there's a lot of gravity with that, and people like fresh things, but it's beyond me why people hate on, let's say, the Outlaws, or even people hating on High Limit that are pro Outlaw. Like, I feel like it shouldn't be pro one or the other. Just be pro sprint car racing and just appreciate what you have. And whatever opinion you may have and that you write on social media is not going to change any person of power, their opinion. Especially the way people come at it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
What I don't get is... Go, Jackson.
I just feel like, especially in dirt racing, the fans are either it's all or nothing. You're either all in on one side or the other. I feel like there's not many people that can, I mean, there are the people that can play both sides, but especially with fandom of drivers and like you said with the series, most people are either they're one side of the fence or the other.
Yeah. I do think I'm not going to talk shit on race fans because race fans are the ones that essentially pay everybody's, I mean, they're the ones that honestly, like, all five of us, one way or another, like, make our money based off of people buying tickets to races, or buying subscriptions to DirtVision, so I'm not going to just talk shit about fans in general, but I do think that, there is definitely, a unfair bias, against the Outlaws, and, the Outlaws do one little bitty thing that, maybe is the right move to make, but in the eye of the public, maybe it's not the most popular decision or whatever. And people just absolutely dog the Outlaws for it when, like, in reality, like, this is the best business decision or whatever. And, I think people that just because they're huge fans of Kyle Larson, which I'm a huge fan of Kyle Larson, who the hell isn't? He's awesome. But there's people that kind of get blinded in their fandom for Kyle or Rico or their hatred for David, and they turn it into, just completely bashing the Outlaws and disregarding what the Outlaws have done for this industry over the last 40 plus years. And I think a lot of it's unfair. Like I get, like, you're going to have things like, there's things that I like about the Outlaws. There's things I don't necessarily like about High Limit. And, that doesn't mean that, a race fan has to, put one down to the point that they act like they shouldn't even exist. So like Buddy said, support sprint car racing and want what's best for the sport, and don't just for no reason dog a series that's made sprint car racing what it is.
Yeah, I don't hate the race fans, people. I promise. I don't hate race fans.
No, to piggyback off what you're both saying, I can go with both of this. Like, I just sit there and shake my head when people are all over Dason Pursley. It's like, you guys do realize, like, he was in the hospital, nearly paralyzed. Like, you think he wants to friggin' send a guy? Like, come on. Like, that's the last guy that's going to want to send a guy. And then with the World of Outlaws High Limit thing, I've never made this point, but it's so fucking obvious. Okay, you hate the Outlaws. You hate High Limit. Do you want them to go away? Like, is that actually your end game? Because while we all pick sides, I think it's badass that we got two options almost every single weekend as a sprint car fan. I think it's awesome that when one group's qualifying and then they've got their downtime before the heats, I can go flip on the other one and watch it. Like, do you actually know what you're cheering for when you cheer for one of the series to, like, suck? Your life will be worse if one of the series sucks. I'll just put it that way. That's the most obvious thing.
People on both sides even just accuse the series of shit that just makes no sense. Like, the Outlaws are not rigging it for David. They're not playing favorites for David. High Limit is not intentionally not checking Brad Sweet's weight when he rolls up to the scales. High Limit is not going to intentionally disqualify David Gravel because Mike Hess is pissed off at what Cody Jacobs said on Facebook. Like, all this shit, these conspiracy theories that people come up with, like, they're not true. Like, just put them to rest.
Yeah, I think if people actually knew what the powers that be were thinking versus what they thought, they'd be pretty shocked. Yeah. Sam, do you have anything to add? You've been pretty quiet on it.
Oh, I mean, I do think it really is kind of snobby, though, that the way High Limit fans do bash the Outlaws. It blows me away. Like, and those High Limit fans were Outlaw fans because, let's face it, High Limit just got here. But I don't know how you can like one and not the other. I don't know how you could do that possibly. There's things we've talked about on here. Like, obviously, High Limit heat races are more exciting because somebody is racing really hard on that front row to win the heat. Whereas on an Outlaw heat race, the front two guys are just trying to take off nice so they both get a decent start. Like, they're not one guy's trying to jump a start majorly, because they know they're both going to make the dash. It's points that we make, and that format, to me, is good for the fans, but for a guy that races 80-something times a year, hey, man, if I earn the front row of my fucking heat race, I want to be able to easily get, I want to make my money easier, and I think that, so there's things that High Limit has been able to do simply because the Outlaws aren't doing it, and it's something to be different. And I think that essentially for fans that per se jump ship from the Outlaws and say, oh, High Limit's my deal, the only reason you're watching that and say you're against the other is because they're doing something different. And I don't think it's necessarily better. You know, like we've had this conversation, like, you know, we had Tony Laporta and Chase Rodman on a couple segments ago, and me and Daryl both told them, like, when they first both started, we couldn't stand watching. And now, like, we've grown accustomed to it, and it's fine, but, you know, I would turn High Limit off because it wasn't natural. It wasn't what I knew. It wasn't normal. Now I get excited to watch it just because the kind of some of the, you know, I like tradition, kind of like what Dom said. He likes the tradition of the Outlaws. It's Johnny Gibson coming on. You've heard that your whole life, like that's what it should be. And then you hear this other series come on, and honestly, the production's kind of shaky. Things are, you know, and then they got the bugs worked out. They're better. And now it's not that I've ever hated it, but if I had to choose, I would choose the Outlaws. And now I like watching High Limit too. But I wasn't a snob saying, "Oh man, fuck High Limit. I don't like that. I'm an Outlaw guy." I like both. I just do. I think they both have their own stories. They both have their different things. Like, I know if I'm going to watch an Outlaw show, I know we're probably going to see the 2-car probably be really hard to beat, and the 83 is going to probably come from behind and maybe steal the show at the end of the race. If I watch a High Limit race, there's a lot of parity. There's some guy that makes the dash that we didn't think was going to make the dash that night, and that usually doesn't happen with the Outlaws. So I think if anything, you know, that's what the High Limit has went for. That's what they've gotten. Does it make them better? No, it does not. Does it make them different? Yes, it does. And I think that I've heard, like, friends of mine that, you know, they're sprint car fans, racing fans in general. Oh man, I really like that High Limit deal. It's a lot better racing. I've heard that 100 times, and I'm like, man, I don't know where y'all are getting this from. Like, I literally went to TMS, and I started third and ran third one night, and I started fourth and ran fourth the other night. Like, it wasn't like I passed any fucking cars, you know. And in the same way on the Outlaw shows, like, it's not like I've tore through the fields. There's not like a shit ton of passing. I think the racing's relatively the same. I think, you know, they have a few gimmicky things that they do that makes them different, but I would say I enjoy watching both shows equally, and I would venture to say that eventually people are going to feel the same way.
Yeah, the other thing that gets me is, like, I'm the kind of guy that can appreciate watching a 25, 30 lap race where the second place guy just chases the leader for all 30 laps and nothing happens. And the reason I appreciate that is, like, you're watching perfection. And I think I think if connection fans don't make is, like, they want passing. Passing is people fucking up. And when you're watching the elite drivers, you're not going to get that passing because they're the elite drivers and they don't fuck up at all. That is a good sign when there's not passing. Yes, I'd like 36 passes for the lead. But if you're watching a race that has a lot of passes for the lead, you're probably not watching elite racers.
That's a great point, actually.
Yeah, like,
see, Daryl, you're not. Yes, Daryl, you're a smart guy. Sam doesn't give you enough credit.
My goal for the podcast was to get Buddy Kofoid to swear. I don't think it's going to happen.
He said shit. Talking shit.
I don't think I'm going to get there, and I feel like if we keep recording, we're not going to get there. So I think we're going to call it here, fellas. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having us. I've been waiting a while for this call.
Yeah, like I say, you were one of the first people to depress me back in the day when you didn't know who the Drivers Project was. But I've forgiven you, buddy. I've forgiven you.
We're going on 9 years now, actually.
Yeah. So once again, thanks for doing this, guys.
Thank you.